and thank everyone for joining us today. We're going to call this for the records. Who's ever taking record notes? This is our April 2020 meeting, first meeting we've had for a while. I really appreciate everybody joining in. We had 70 registrants. I'm sure other folks will be coming on soon. It's just nice to see everybody's faces or black screens, whatever we have on there, or telephone icons. It's just nice to see everybody together like this. This is great. And I hope that you're all well, and I hope that your families are well. I pray your businesses are doing well, or your jobs. Thank you, Mayor Sellers, for talking with us today. We appreciate that. And, I'm going to do some chamber announcements, and then we're going to start our conversations with Mayor Sellers and about the impact of COVID-19 in his city and the massive challenges we all face as we move forward in recovery. As I normally do in our meetings, I want to make sure that we recognize and thank. I don't have anybody to thank for the food or the hospitality of the room or anything, but we certainly can thank the movers and the shakers, the board of directors. We thank our board of directors and also our sponsors and partners. As I say, every meeting that we have, without our sponsors and partners, we could not do what we do. All right. Mayor Sellers, you ready?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's start this off. And I first, Mayor Sellers, just want to ask, we've seen each other once or twice at the beginning of all this, how you are. So how's Mayor Sellers? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I mean, it's, obviously they're tough. These are tough and unprecedented times, but, we keep our head above water and just try to take each day as it comes. But I'm doing well. Family's doing well.
Good. How about the staff?
Staff is doing well. Staff is doing good. I mean, we are working on a variation of staggered shifts here, and our buildings are still open to the public, but they're still open. They're closed to the public. They're still open, but we're still doing business here, right? Because as we work our way through this COVID-19 situation, we have to make some accommodations for just a healthy work environment.
Yeah, great. And I have to say, first responders, police, fire, EMS, who we all salute and really appreciate. They're doing well, and I would just say give them our best for the ones that are on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about people that are on the front line.
Yeah, those people.
Yeah, they're on the front line every day. They go into harm's way every day.
Sure.
And we're all watching the news. We see how dangerous it is, right? And it's not just not police and fire. You're talking about your public service workers, your folks working in restaurants, cashiers at the grocery store, all kind of people on the front line here. All right. And what has been encouraging to me is really that this country has really shown its true colors about coming together and staying connected here and really understanding what's really important in this world.
If you would, let's go back in time. For me, it's going to be March 1st, but for you, it certainly might be earlier than that. But during the week of March, I was vacationing in Florida, and we came back, got back to work again. And I think I made it in time for that after hours event that we had at the Chagrin Valley Beverage Store. And then the announcement that the schools closed, and then everything changed. And I'm not going to go into my story, but do me a favor and tell us your story, and go back as far as you like. But tell us that roller coaster ride that you personally went on and your experiences.
Well, I'll just say this. I had really been watching it since December, right? I watched a lot of news channels, and I was watching what was going over in China, and I saw it slowly creeping around, right? And then when it finally broke here in March, obviously we were just coming out of, I think, high school basketball season, and we're heading into what we call spring around here. And the door really opened up, right? And so when the door opened up, it hit this country like a ton of bricks. And we've had to make a number of contortions. Each and every one of us has had to make a number of contortions. One, to make sure that people were safe. Secondly, to make sure that there was a tomorrow. And thirdly, to make sure that we now try to put together a plan of action to bring it back. I think I don't think there hasn't been any entity, person, organization that has not been touched in a major way here. I mean, there's a lot of damage going on around here. There's a lot of damage, right? And so we just have to band together at this point and try to figure out not if, but when we are coming back and how we're going to do it together.
Yeah. So the other thing that I think that you probably covered, but I had the question, and I'm going to just say, I guess I'll ask it again because they deserve it. Since the pandemic, many heroes have emerged. Do you want to recognize your local heroes? I think you did, but I don't know if there's specifically anybody or any group you want to mention.
Well, again, out of my own shop, police and fire and all the people around here that are engaging with people on a daily, because we still doing business here. We're still conducting business here. We're still meeting folks in a different manner, but business must go on. It has to go on here. People demand these services. They need these services. I want to make sure that that we recognize the folks on the council are I see Councilwoman Hagwood on the video conference this morning. I'll just tell you, she can tell you we don't stop doing what we do, but we're a little bit more strategic about how we're doing it. And I'm gonna just tell you, because the people here deserve it. It's not just the people that live here. It's the people that work here and call this place home. I don't care if it's all day, half a day, a piece of a day. We want to make sure that we're still delivering a high level of elite services that we can. Right now, has it been tougher? There's no question. Going forward, is there some realignment? Potentially. But right now, I don't think that it has all been factored and figured out. But I know this, and you see that for us, we're opening back up here on Monday, right? The governor's order is going to release business back here on Monday, general offices to open up on Monday. So we're trying to prepare ourselves for that, and then exactly what that looks like.
So this is another maybe personal question that I think we can all relate to, and I can tell you I've had my challenges. How hard is it for you to wake up in the morning and stay motivated, to keep everyone else motivated? And I suppose knowing that your best laid plans, and I know you had a lot of them, were either postponed or canceled.
Well, I'll say this: I'm motivated every day, right? Because I'm not a guy that succumbs to turmoil and failure, right? So I'm not gonna fail on my watch. It's just not. So what we have to do is make the appropriate adjustments, make sure that because we're still gonna be standing, right? That's not gonna be an issue. Mm-hmm. Issue is, how do we have, after we come out of this, how is it going to operate from here, right? Because I think there's one thing that has been learned here, right? People, we take some things for granted here.
Oh yeah.
You take being in people's space for granted, right? Yeah. And so there are things that we're all learning here that we're going to adjust to. We're going to make some adjustments, but be clear, to me, it's going to go back to some form of how we operated before with some adjustments, just like we do anything else, right? Because some of the stuff that I look on here, I look around, I'm looking at some of the people on the screen. I need plumbing and HVAC services. I need you to come in my house. Yes, I do, right?
Right.
And I look around and I see when it's time for me to move, I see moving services. I'm gonna move that stuff. I'm called Wayne. Wayne, come with me. Right. Yep. Right. I look at Chris on the screen. I need some IT stuff. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Right. So we are still going to interact and do things. And let me give a special shout out to First Federal Lakewood and Chalana. That I want to say First Federal Lakewood was instrumental in stepping up here in a major way in this community and making sure that some small business folks here got some of that PPP money, right? Yeah. Because that PPP money was going out like nobody's business. Because I'll tell you this, how do Lakers get some money?
Yeah.
How do Lakers get some money? Lakers is $1 billion organization.
Yeah.
Dip into your money and pull it out, right? I get why you wanted to do it, right? You want to pay your people and it was going to cost you a dime. But that's not the intent. The intent was to keep people afloat until we come back, right? And so thank God, that's why I'm appreciative of social media and news and people who do investigative journalism, because they're basically saying them companies back into giving that money back, basically, right? And if it hadn't, that information hadn't come to light, and I'm not just singling out the Lakers, right? But we all have to remember, we're all pressed. There's no entity in here that has not been pinched, right? Some have the ability to sustain that pinching a little more than others, right? And so we got to make sure that the backbone of this country, small business, is kept propped up as we continue to fight our way back, right? So that's why I'm encouraged, Steve. I'm encouraged to come out here every day because we got plans here, and I'm not shelving them. I'm just not.
How about the new city hall plans? Did that just not come to a halt? Didn't it? Construction, did everything just come to a halt, or did it?
No. Oh no, that thing's still going every day, right? Because the way we financed the deal, we did it to the Port Authority. So the Port Authority is really the owner of the project. We're the tenant. Now, after 25 years, we take ownership of the building. So we have a deal where we own the building, but we take the deed in 25 years. So the construction money had already been put up by the Port Authority. That project is being worked on every day. I think the building's supposed to come back to us late July, early August. Is the last date I had at the last project meeting. And it's still, if you go by the old South University on Richmond Road, you'll see crews working there every day, right? And it is progressing like I had ultimately thought. We're just about to bring the council and the Board of Education the final documents to finalize the lease with the school board. Because if you didn't know, the school board has been offered the ability from us to move in our building, become a tenant of ours. Yeah. And so I just think it's great because it puts all the entities that we do business with now. I don't care if you've in this city in one place, except for fire. Fire is going to remain at the current city hall where we are in Warrensville Center, along with a police substation, and our civic and senior center will still reside out of the senior and civic center on Green Road. But every other entity and the public works service department will still operate off the service department building on Miles. But every other operation that we have is under one roof. And then to bring in the school board here as a partner and tenant of ours, I think long term for this community is the way it needs to go. It really is cutting edge because there's nobody out here doing that.
Yeah, thank you. Any other development?
Yeah, so
that you had, or and maybe some progress on those, if you can talk about it.
Well, I would say we're still continuing trying to redevelop the Northfield site, the old Zaire site behind the Y and library. And I know that Jerome Duvall is working with some entities on some senior housing. We actually had this is unique. We had basically a version, a movie studio, basically. If you didn't know that, they've obviously got the studios in Hollywood, right? So they've broken out and they've done one in Boston now. And they're looking for another location. There was an entity here that came to town a few weeks ago, kicking around and looking at that site as a potential place for the studio, and not just to do movies and scenes from, if you can imagine stuff that goes on Hollywood studios, but it also is a place for empowerment and job creation, because there's 1,000 people that work on those sets to prepare those things to be ready, right? And so it was just interesting to sit in on a meeting, because I think we actually got the lead from Cuyahoga County, and it's actually been one of the interesting meetings I've had in a while. And then thirdly, let me not forget, we're continuing to work with the county and our state partners, because as you know, Sherman-Williams will be departing here in about 3 or 4 years. I think it's been delayed a little bit by this COVID-19 situation. Yeah. But ultimately, I want to see that site redeveloped and put back into play to breathe continual breath into this city in the future as we go forward.
Yeah, that answers one of, somebody sent a question in. I'm sorry I don't have the one who wrote it, but I think you answered that question about the space at Sherwin-Williams. Matt, I think we got competition coming. As long as they don't do small videos, little web videos, we're going to be okay. Otherwise, you can't let that come.
Well, Steve, I said when I say people just kicking tires, because if you don't know, the city of Warrensville owns the land over there. Yeah. So I hadn't seen anybody offer me a check. So you're just kicking tires, right?
Yeah.
I kick tires with the best of them, right?
Yeah.
And then I said, then the other time we all go to buy our own cars, right? Then we go to the financing office.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I also am going to shout out for Chalana, and I know there's a lot of good banks. I don't mean to do this, but a sum of money went in my bank account the other day, and that was, Chalana's help over there, First Federal Lakewood. So thank you for that. That was great.
Here, I'm gonna tell you, Chalana obviously took the lead on it, and the president of First Federal Lakewood was a major player in it too. So Tim was a big player in it, and I just tell you, it's refreshing. Let me tell you how refreshing it was.
Yeah.
I love the big banks too.
Yeah.
Chase, Key. This money was beginning to spread out among people they knew. Yeah. Because they want to make sure they get paid back. I get it.
Yeah.
Right. But the backbone of this country is built on small business. Anybody on this screen, right? That's the backbone of this country. We got to keep that group afloat, right? It's like, I'm just using the Lakers because that just came to mind. Yeah. You tell me the Lakers couldn't stay afloat?
Yeah.
You think anybody wouldn't bankroll them?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Right? It's not a problem. Yeah. It's not a problem, and I get it. We were trying to get the money out so quick, right? And they saw an angle, so they didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't look good.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good, right? Right. So the thing about it is this. The one thing I tell you that we all do, and just know this. If you can't tell, we are all connected at the hip. Mm-hmm. Yes, we are.
Right.
I don't care where you call business or where your home is. Boy, you didn't know you were real connected to us, did you?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
That's right. We're all connected at the hip. I need you, you need me, we need one another.
I'm going to skip here. In what ways will your city feel the fiscal impact of the pandemic? And can you talk about the budget? Can you tell us? Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Good.
Listen, I was on a conference call with the state auditor this morning. So here, because I'm an association of mayors and managers of Cuyahoga County, and we were all on there. We're all asking the same question. Listen, let me be clear. The month of March wasn't so bad because you're in arrears, right? So we're still good. Now, April and May gonna be tough, right? And because when people lay people off or furlough folks, right? Let me tell you what they don't do. They don't pick up the phone and call City Hall and say, City Hall, I just laid off 75 people. We only know because cities run on income tax. That's how it runs. It really isn't a property tax. Property tax is 9% of the take. It really is the income tax, right? So that payroll tax that comes in here helps subsidize the police and fire and all the other services that we do around here. So we will know in April's in about 2 weeks, really. In 2 weeks, we'll really know what the hit is. But our projection is a 25% hit, right? 5%. And that was just backed up by talking to the state auditor, because state auditor is auditing everybody, right? And so they're going through projecting a 25% hit in the state.
Yeah.
Right? They said, listen, there's going to be a lot of bleeding here. Be clear, right? Now it's a matter of how you close up the wound, right?
Right.
But here, I would just say this. We're going to muscle our way back. It's just how you do it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? No, I mean, they're pulling out laws of 1918, right?
Yeah.
I was on a call today and said, there's a law in the book from the pandemic in 1917 that allows municipalities to do certain things, right? Which are financial, right? And so, here, the thing about it is, I don't care your most well-equipped cities that have good reserves and finances, they're feeling it too.
Yeah, sure.
Right. I was watching University of Michigan, their president the other day. And so he was on the other day. And he said, they're projecting a $400 million loss at University of Michigan. The colleges are feeling it, right? So there's nobody, let me just be clear, there's no one that's been spared, right? And so as long as we stick together and work together, then we'll figure a way back. We will.
Yeah. And do you think that your hit is your hit is better than most?
The mix helps us because there are a lot of entities that will continue to work, right?
Yeah.
One of my concerns is if you're all retail here, who can survive? Right? Because my fear is that everybody will not survive, and that's the problem, right? And I hear Steve, you and I had a conversation when we cut that video for that Alexa pulled together for us at your studio to talk about how we were operating here in City Hall.
Right.
I knew they could not sustain staying out. Right. They've gone about as far as they can go. Right. They're gonna open up the gates again.
Right.
Right. They are.
Sure.
Right. They are, because people can't stand. Here we do a number of food banks. I don't know if you've seen these food bank lines around this county.
Yeah.
There's Mercedes and BMWs in the food bank line.
I know.
Right. Folks who had never had to be in a food bank line. Right. So now they're weighing out, and the one thing that I hope that everybody learns is to be cautious, be smart, right? But you can't stay in the house all day, right?
Right.
Those with medical conditions have to, right?
Right.
The rest you have to be smart, because they're going to open up the gates here, right? This is where it was headed. When I told you about a month ago, it was headed this way. It was going to head this way because they're going to take it as far as they could take. I told you I thought they could make it to the end of May.
Can I ask you, there's two questions. I'll put them together. What are your thoughts on the governor's roadmap to reopening, and then your prediction whether this is going to be a V-shaped recovery, or is this going to be a long, slow, drawn-out recovery?
Well, typically, let me say this. Everybody knows I'm a card-carrying Democrat here, right? I think Mike DeWine has done a phenomenal job. I think he has, right? And in a tough environment. I think all the governors across this country have done a phenomenal job. Because it's not about the Democratic or Republican.
Right, absolutely.
It's about good people trying to do right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what it's about. So he's done a great job. I think he has. As far as the recovery, I know people think that it's going to come back immediately. I don't think it's going to be long like we were in 2009 and 10. I don't think it's going to be that. Right?
I'm hoping not.
I don't think it's going to be that.
Otherwise, right? I'm 66.
Steve, let me tell you, I like the position we were in. We were doing okay, right?
Yeah, right.
So people felt good. The economy was going well.
Right.
So now we're going to crawl out here because there are going to be a number of entities left on the sideline, never to reemerge again. Right? There are.
Right.
And anybody that says that's not the case is not telling you the straight up truth. Right? And so the deal is, how much more willing will the federal government be able to step in here? Because I still think they have the ability to prop people up. Right? They have the ability to prop people up. You can hold it to get banded. We're not talking about banding together for 10 years.
Yeah.
But you got to hold that sector up, because most people who are of modest means just try to make it happen. If you give them a hand, they'll find a way. Right now, they're being crushed.
Right.
You got to prop them up.
Wayne, to you, as we are getting closer to 12, are there questions? And if anybody wants to do one of those hand raise things?
Yes, I have several questions, Steve.
Okay.
And I think they tie into some of the questions that you were going to ask later. So I'll just kind of pull those together. One is, and first of all, just let me make a personal comment. Mayor, that was fantastic to hear about, the small businesses. I think that's an outstanding point. I can't, there's probably at least 30 of us on the screen now who can express frustrations with seeing money go out to much larger companies that have access to it while we wait 20, 30 days to receive ours. So
Right.
I thought that was a great point. I think hopefully it's rectified, but I truly believe that the small businesses are the backbone of the economy and what's going to pull it out. So with that said, you had mentioned about the budget being decreased by possibly 25%, but you had also mentioned about your team, the city employees, frontline workers, those folks, being out there and being protected. So I'm assuming that you're going to have PPE equipment for them. So what is going to be the financial impact to our city with that. And then there's a second part that came up from Wanda Ailita I'd like to ask. She pointed out that there may be many residents in the city who may not be able to afford PPE equipment at this time due to personal cuts and things like that. So does the city have any plans to address that as well? Thank you.
So let me, and you might have to refresh me here. I'm going to take your first question first. So for the PPE equipment here, the one thing the government's been good about is, at least in the state, is making sure, and the county, let me say that, a shout out to the county, making sure that there was enough PPE equipment to go around here, right? And then making sure, we just put an order in the other day, making sure there was a stream to where you could find the equipment, right? And it's really only being held for the people on the front line, the first responders, right? So we're doing that. Then I would tell you there are going to be new rules and regulations. I'm waiting for the governor's actual order to come out here for this re-engagement here for Monday, right? Which is going to probably require the social distancing to stay in place, even though the president said he's stopping it today, right? Which is going to require probably masks to be worn at all times. And then we're taking the necessary precautions here. We were going to follow the same social distancing same rules and regulations we've been using, Wayne, here over the last 7 weeks, right? Because until there is a vaccine out here, you have to be smart, right? You just have to play it smart, right? And is it a little bit different than what we were doing? Absolutely. Absolutely. But you know what? I was in Lowe's yesterday. You know what people respect? You stand behind that blue tape over there. Don't you cross? Don't you come up on me? Right? And you go to, and I was in Giant Eagle yesterday, saying that people are real respectful. And I don't care if you got a million things in your basket. Go ahead, put your stuff on there. I want you to clear yourself out of here.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be causing people a problem because they're adjusting, right? Because they're adjusting, Wayne, because you see too many stories about somebody that is not here anymore. That in a week, like, I don't know if you remember the bus driver in Detroit, said somebody coughed on the bus.
Yeah.
5 days later, he was dead. Right? This is very real out here. Right? So that's one thing. Then your second question was
that was related to the to the residents. I know that, you know, within our company we had someone, their wife, make masks. So basically they were facial coverings, right, which seemed to be deemed appropriate. But the question was specifically with some of your residents facing tighter budgets during this time, is the city exploring any funding opportunities to provide masks or PPE equipment to residents?
Well, see, and I would say we have looked. The first problem is getting a hold of the mask. That's why they went to the, let me tell you how to make a mask, right? Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, people are sourcing their way to China to try to get these masks. And it's just not us. The whole world is looking for these masks, right? And so I don't know. I personally tried to order some weeks ago on eBay, right? Like I got paid through PayPal, right? Because they just never showed, right? So until there is a, you know, one thing I don't think the federal government did very well was leverage our ability to create, because we could have went there in production weeks ago on masks. There's enough companies here, and they could have paid for it. Sure could have, right? And the issue is going forward, we look like we're going to be on these unless you have your own mask or PPE equipment, you're going to have to work really basic within your own self, right? Because the supply stream has been compromised out here, right? And then the other factor is, let's just talk about in my own shop here. As we open the door back up on Monday, I'm sure people want to know, right? How are we doing? We're going to end up doing some staggered shifts here. We have enough spacing for the 6 foot requirements here. And I'm going to just tell you right now, I'm working on there are 4 companies in this country, 4, that have been approved by the federal government, FDA, to do the antibody testing. Right, 4. We're working right now to have one of those 4 companies offer to administer those tests here, right? Which will tell you one of 3 things. because they can't do mass volume, but they can do an entity of our size, which will allow you for your employees to know, one, there's three results you can get. You can know if you have the antibodies, because if you have the antibodies, that means you had it. You had it at some point, right? It will also tell you if you have it now. And the third thing it will tell you is if you never had it, right? Because I just feel like the way it's constructed, people still want to know.
Yeah.
Still want to know. So I'm working, and here, this is, let me be clear, in true Warrensville fashion. You know, a guy I went to high school with works for one of these pathology companies. He graduated with me. He called me and said, listen, we're one of the 4 companies. The first place I thought of was my hometown, Warrensville. And so I'm in conversation with them now, trying to bring this together, right? Now I got to work through my my labor relations and everything else in the building here. But if I source it around people in this building, let me tell you what my employees say, Steve and Wayne. They want to know.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know.
Right.
They want to know about themselves, and then they want to know about the people next to them.
Yeah. Anybody want to raise a hand or throw a question out? I can't really tell. I can.
Yeah.
I don't know how to tell. I'm scrolling through everybody.
You have to unmute yourself. And then,
go ahead.
I tell here. Let me tell you this. Steve called me this morning and said, how you want to take these questions? I said, we're taking all comers. Yeah. Raise your hand. I don't like it. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't know. But I feel like in these forums, you should ask your question.
Oh, somebody has one. Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me and see me? This is Renee.
Yep.
Yes. Renee, we can see you.
Okay, great. I had submitted my question through the chat, but we're closing in on the time frame here. But my question would be back to you. What can we do to help you? What can we do to help the city? How can we help? That's my question.
My next question, Renee. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, Renee, thanks for the question. I would just tell you that how you can help me. Make sure that we all stay together here, and that nobody is. If you're getting stressed out here, that we're all working together here to keep everybody afloat, right? Mm-hmm. My job is to try to make sure that we open up avenues. That here's a good question. In these days and times, if this chamber isn't trying to work with its own membership at this time to do something, purchase some services, some things that you're doing that you may normally doing with somebody else, right? Because this is a unit. This is a family-like unit, right? I want to make sure that we're doing that in the best possible way, Renee, because I would just tell you, you guys have been great. And Renee, you've helped us on a number of fronts here, right? I just want to make sure that everybody knows that there's no one that is immune to this. We just have to stay together. We got to figure out a way to stay together. And communication is one way, right? The other way is making sure that if somebody needs a hand up, let it be known that there are problems here, right?
Mayor, I know you say you're taking all questions, and this probably becomes a little bit tougher, and you might not even be prepared to answer the question. However, as you had mentioned, the budget might decrease by 25%. At a projected basis. Many of our businesses are making serious decisions in terms of how we're going to manage our costs and expenses, and even our people. During this down cycle and decrease in our revenues. How does the plan, has the city given much thought to, what it's going to do in terms of tightening its belt and how this may or may not impact the income tax or residents down the road?
Well, so I would tell you that the city's intent, we study it every day. The finance director and I study it every day, right? So the projected numbers, here, let me start off with the workforce here. So obviously, I don't think there's a company or working entity in this city that is not reanalyzing its workload, right? To figure out if you're right size at this point, right? Because the goal here is to still deliver the services that people want here. So we're going to do that, right? Now, the question is how I do it. right? Do I do it with, we have about 170 employees in total, right? Do I streamline it a little bit better, a little bit more? It's not like I'm over bloated here with people, right? As far as the work that needs to be done, right? So, as we look at, you see a lot of companies here doing a lot of layoffs, right? We chose not to do that at this time because the gains you get from the layoff reduction are minuscule in relationship to the hemorrhaging, right? Because you still have to provide the services, right? And then the way that it was set up was that, you cannot work the way it was set up. You had to give people enough spacing in the work to be able to do their job. It's just like if I think about my service department, we usually had at one time we would ride 3 or 4 in a truck. Well, you can't ride 3 or 4 in a truck. You might could do 2, but your staff is really want to do 1, right? So it's now you have to stagger the shifts so that everybody's not piled up on top of one another, right? Because you still have to, I still got to fix the street, I still got to pick up the limbs, I still got to get the rubbish pickup on the city cans, the things that need to be done still need to be done. Because I don't think anybody's going to say, well, I don't see anybody sticking up their hand saying, well, decrease the service.
Yeah.
No, they want the service.
Yeah.
And now it's up to me to figure out how to deliver it. But I mean, in the long range, Wayne, are we analyzing it? We absolutely are. Am I married to anything? I absolutely am not. Right? I'm married to delivering the service that these people here expect. And that's not just the people that live here. I'm talking the businesses, right? Because we get call from the business community too, right? We just want to make sure that that we're abiding by all the things that we have told people that we are going to do.
What about things like signage? A lot of folks want to put out signs or want to do, and maybe they're the restaurants. And Colleen, I know you're on, and I think Brian, you're on as well. We see in some of the other cities I go down on there are 25 signs that says pick up and delivery. Do these businesses have to be worried about that? Can they do it?
No, I mean, we're doing, if you ride around here, you see companies now. I mean, they're on the tree lawns, they're in the windows, and we're not here. We're trying to make sure we understand what's going on, right? Yeah. And so I think Alexa she and I were just talking the other day, trying to make sure as we come out of here that, one thing that people have not done, I think we can do a much better job is making sure that we know that Jerome and Alexa know which. Here, I use the restaurateurs for example. Who's open? Who's delivering? Who's doing something, right? And so that you don't have to ride by and look at the window. We can also help promote it too to make sure that people know where to go, right? Yeah. And then there are other things out here. Some people, if you're doing deliveries, right, making sure that folks know who's delivering, right? And so those are some of the smaller things that we can do. And so as we go forward, Steve, I think between the chamber and the city and the 3 cities, making sure that we understand that we get the message out here, because I tell you, general offices open up on Monday, the 4th.
Yeah.
Now we will see what happens about how many people come back. But the thing, when we do our ride-bys, Chris, I ride by the apartments every day. Apartments are packed with cars.
Mm-hmm.
During the day where nobody's very few are there, right? So that's your workforce. They're at home, right? So we will see come next week how many people are transitioning back. Because I just anticipate as it starts to open back up, people are going to be very cautious in the beginning.
Yeah.
Making sure they don't overstep. But I just feel like at some point it's going to evolve back to similar to what we had to a degree with some adjustments.
Yeah.
There's no restaurant that seats 200 that can make it off 25 people.
Right.
It just can't happen. Right. The math doesn't add up.
Right.
Right. So we have to figure out a way. Right. And there's some adjustments in the companies. It could be adjustments in HVAC. We'll figure it out. This is a very smart country.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely.
It always proves itself to be very smart.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So it's a little after 12. Well, I think we've said it all. There's some other questions here. If you guys still want to submit questions to me, if you think of something, send it to me or to to the city, and we'll make sure your questions get answered. I really want to, Mayor.
Steve, can I say one thing before we go?
No, absolutely, yeah.
I will tell you who, and I want to give another big round of applause and acknowledgement to. You know who's been key as we navigate through this? South Point Hospital, Dr. Margaret McKenzie and her team.
Oh, sure.
Has kept every one of the mayors of 3 cities and the surrounding mayors
Sure.
in the loop about what's going on, how we're attacking, how many cases we have in the area, trying to make sure it's managed, making sure that the communication portion, they've been navigating sessions weekly here to make sure we are all in tune to what's going on. And we had a session yesterday about, okay, we're about to come out and this is the way we're going to go together and this is what we need to do together. Yeah. And it has been great working with them. They've really taken a leadership position when it comes to venturing forward here through this pandemic.
Well, you're absolutely right. So thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody,
Steve,
for being on.
Steve,
go ahead.
Steve, one final question just from the chat room. There weren't really questions. It's really a comments, and they centered around something Chris House just sent me as well. We want to sincerely thank you, Mayor, for the work that you're doing during this crisis. This is not easy for anyone. I couldn't even imagine being in your shoes to have to manage through this. And then also, Steve, we like to thank you for setting this up in the chamber, simply because bringing each other together at this point is going to be very important and just kind of keeping everyone up to date. And quite frankly, it's a little therapeutic. So we thank everyone that's involved.
It's my pleasure. And all I can say is buy web video. That's all I can say, right?
I'm gonna buy some more web video because Alexa, we gotta finish up what we do. We got a new story we have to tell here. But let me say this. Let me also thank all the frontline work. You think about all the people in the nursing homes, the healthcare industry. Those are people that are fighting the battle, the good fight every day, right?
Oh yeah,
That's true.
They not even put themselves on the line; they put their families on the line, right?
Yeah.
Right. So as we saunter off to Heinen's and saunter off to Giant Eagle or wherever else, Dave's or any other place you frequent for food, these folks are in here battling every day, to make sure that your loved one is being well taken care of. Right? And I think at the end of the day, we're going to owe them a debt of gratitude so large,
sure,
right? So large because they just came. When the alarm came, they just came. They ran toward. They didn't run away.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, thank you, everybody. I encourage everyone to support our local shops, our local businesses. You know, they're on the website. We're sending out the email. Really appreciate it, and I'll keep you informed of what we're doing next. Right now, we know it's the annual meeting on May 20th. It's going to be a Zoom thing, so.
Steve, I just saw one question that came up from
sure.
in the chat room. They were asking, when is the city reopening the building department? So the building department has not closed the external point of sale inspections. We are waiting for how the government orders comes out and tells us how to deploy, right? So right now, we're going to continue doing the point of sales the way we're doing them until. That's why I talked about the order. I wait for, there's one thing, the governor have a press conference. That's one thing. The governor also going to put it out in writing. And in writing, that's what all these labor unions want to see. That's what people can take away. What are my takeaways? How can we conduct business here? And so I'm expecting that to come out here. And I want to thank Nicole McKinney-Johnson, my HR director, for staying on top of that as well, trying to make sure that we are abiding by the laws. But we are going to, at some point here, we're going to get back to doing business as you knew. Maybe with some adjustments, but we're going to get back to doing the business that we all know.